Now, once we click on the Use Local Backup functionality, we want to be able to set where we want to have our database located. And if you remember, we created that 4 gig logical volume. This is where I want to store my database. Now, in the beginning, it's very small. I would say mostly, probably about 10 to 15 megs. So 4 gig is going to last a very long time. You can even always increase it. So if you want to go larger, you can. But it's sufficient for where it's at right now. If you want to put it on other shares, you can. But for this purposes, I've created my own logical volume, and I've been able to assign my database there. So once I've created my database and you hit apply, then you can go right into your NAS resources and in the shares. Now in my shares, if you see here, I see the backup database, and it's assigned to that logical volume 001. Then I created a share called data. This is where we will be backing up the data. And of course, we've created different shares called backup and restore. And this is where we'll be able to actually restore some of our data wherever we wish and when we wish. So currently, we see that we have data in the share. We take a look at it, the path, and here we have directories underneath the share. So let's go ahead and do a backup on our USB, which is the drive that we have attached directly to the DSS V6. And one of the first things I want to do is I want to create a pool. So this helps you group all your tape backups. And I'm going to put a retention time, 365 days. You can shorten this up. Again, if you have any questions concerning what a particular function is, here you can see tape retention, and it describes it, the amount of time that the data will be stored on the tapes. And of course, there's other information too. So you can enter these values or just retention time once. So let's just create a group, a pool. We'll call it P1. And on the left, you're able to click on it. And obviously, we don't have any pools assigned to a tape. So let's go ahead and configure our tape. Now on the left, you'll see backup devices. Here we can call this. We'll just state that it's a USB T1 for tape 1. And we're going to select the dynamic volume that we created. And this is the USB drive that we've attached to the DSS, and we created a dynamic unit. Now, once we've created basically the new backup device from that USB drive, then from that point, we can carve out many different types of virtual tapes from this. So on the left, you see the dynamic 00 created. Let's see, tape drives. There we go. So here we have different types of tapes. And we'll go ahead and set this up. And we'll set the first tape. Let's go tape 1. We're going to sign up for this tool, for this pool right here, pool 1. And here we're able to set the limits, the tape size. You have many different variables from megabytes, gigabytes, and terabytes. If I wanted to create one tape, let's say I wanted to do incrementals, let's say from Monday to Thursday, and every Friday I want to do full backups. So I can create 2 types of tapes here. So for this purpose, we'll just create a 100 gig tape backup. And then we'll create another one we can create as USB, or just we'll call it tape 2, and assign it to the pool 1. And here we'll create another 100 gig. So this is showing in purposes that you can create multiple tapes from the USB drive from the dynamic unit. So if we were to say tape 1 is for incrementals, you would have this available. And here you would see that the time, the retention time, how much is being written to. You can also remove the tape. So here we can easily remove the tape and recycle it and repurpose for other needs. Now we go right into the backup task. So here we want to create our backup task. We want to be able to create a new backup. So let's call this backup 1. And we're going to assign it to the logical volume. If you remember, we talked about that data was the share where all the files are stored, and that way we'll back them up. So we're going to assign it for logical volume 00, and here we see the share on the left. We want to be able to click to the arrow to assign it into the signed shares. And as you see, we now have the snapshot 00, which it found from our volume manager. And you can have many snapshots assigned to many different backup jobs. So for this purposes, we're going to select this snapshot 0000, select the pool, which is our P1, and for this capabilities, we're going to do a full. Now you can do incrementals and differentials. You can also do compressed data. Keep in mind that compressing data depends on many different variables. If you have a lot of video, it's very difficult to compress that, but a lot of text files are very easy to compress. So you could use that. Performance is irrelevant, and also speed is irrelevant at that point in time. Making full backup every copy, you can select this, and here this will do incrementals or differentials. So for every one backup, you're going to do a full. So for this case, we're going to go ahead and create our task and hit apply. And we see now on the left that we have backup 1. Now we're going to, how are we going to back up? When are we going to back up? And here we have create new schedule for backup task. We can place a comment, and then we select the type of backup time we're going to do. We have intervals, which would mean every 10 minutes you can do your full backup, all the way into increments of 24-hour periods. Now, if we decide a schedule backup, here we can select the day or many days of the backup. So we can state all Monday through Friday to start, and this current time is 1400, so it's actually 2 o'clock Eastern time at 19 minutes, and we'll actually start it in 1 minute thereafter to give us an extra time. We'll do it every week. You can also do it every even or odd weeks as well. So once this has been applied, then we'll be able to see our backup tasks. So here, we'll do another one. And we'll call this for Tuesdays and Thursdays and Fridays all the way through Monday. We'll start it again at 1400, and we'll go with 21 minutes. So you can see you can create many different tasks. We only need one for this purpose, but I want to show you that you can create multiple ones for different times and different days. And if you ever need to remove it, well, you can remove them right here through the X. Now this backup job is going to start in a few minutes. What it's going to do, again, it's going to use the snapshot. The snapshot's going to take a snapshot of that logical volume where that share resides, and then the backup is going to back up from the snapshot that the snapshot is taken from for that logical volume. So now that we've completed that, that's using the USB drive. Now let's take a look, and we'll come back and we'll look at the backup job to see if it's started and where we're at with that process. And then we can restore the files later. If we go back to configuration and to volume manager and to our volume groups, here you can use, this is another RAID controller using another RAID array that I've created. So here you have a volume that we can turn into a dynamic unit. So we'll take this one right here at 695 gig, new dynamic unit. And this RAID controller with, I'm using 2 drives, using basically a mirrored configuration. And then we have redundancy on my drives. So I'm using a RAID 1 on that other controller. And there's my new dynamic unit. So here, many times customers will use the RAID controller and another RAID array. You can have a RAID 10, a RAID 5, or a RAID 6. And using another RAID controller is probably the fastest performance of any backup feature you can use. I mean, obviously we can use the USB drives. You could use a logical volume or a tape drive, but it's really fast when you use a separate RAID controller with its own RAID array. So once we've created another concept here with using a RAID array or with a controller and a RAID array, then we can go right into our backup functions. We'll create another pool. So we'll call it P2. And here on the left you see P2. And from this point we can create our backup device. So let's go to our backup device. We're going to call this backup RAID array. And we're going to select our dynamic volume. Here it's given us the options for 0, 1. We're going to use 0. The 1 net was our RAID controller and RAID array that we created. And so on the left you'll see dynamic 0, 1. As it completes, it's structuring it's virtualizing, it's basically structuring the volumes, the dynamic unit for that volume into multiple tapes. Now when we have our tape, we can create it, and we'll call this RAID array, and we're going to use P2, and here we can take the whole size, or take a large size of, let's say, 500 gig. And we could use this for our full backups. So this now gives us greater abilities and flexibility to use direct backup concepts right onto a RAID controller. And here we can see the actual the size again, and you can remove the tapes and so forth. Okay, so now we've created concepts of backing up to a USB drive and also to a RAID array. Let's look at the capabilities of being in backup to, let's say, an iSCSI target. Well, what we want to do is, this is a very unique concept, because if we take this other destination server, DSS, and what we're going to do is we've created a logical volume, iSCSI, and let's do that right now, because what we want to do is we want to be able to create a target, an iSCSI target, and then use these other system that we have here to build a backup image. And we're going to create a virtualized tape and use it as a dynamic unit. So let's go ahead and create an iSCSI volume. And for this purposes, we're going to use block IO. You can use volume replication. So this is really providing additional data redundancy. What you would do is, when you create a iSCSI target, then if you get another DSS server, you would use replication. So you would be able to replicate your backups to, let's say, another DSS server. So we'll be able to, and you can even use the auto failover feature. So now we've created an iSCSI target. Let's verify that it is assigned properly, because we selected the auto target creation. And here it created the target 00. And we've created the 100 gig. That's perfect. And automatically assigned the target, and it's enabled. You can also stop it if you wish to use the write back functionality. So what this does is, we're using the system cache, and its performance is really improved once used. We don't recommend using the write back functionality when you are using the auto failover function, as we're not replicating the cache.